All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on graduate admissions for fall 2022. Of course, we are now at an admissions cycle stage where some universities, of course, have stopped accepting applications for certain programs, which is to say that deadlines have also crossed. And we're also at a stage where we are receiving admits, because universities that follow rolling admissions or universities that follow phase-wise admissions, they've started releasing acceptances or rejections for the upcoming session. Having said that, there's still a lot of opportunities that are open in terms of if you are applying for stay and study in certain countries, it is still a good time for you to do so. Of course, places like Canada are not as open right now because their deadlines are typically earlier. But if you want to go to Europe, if you want to go to Australia for any of the terms, this is something that will be extremely important to you. So, of course, my name is Vijay Srinivas. I head study abroad operations at the Center for Career Development, and it's again amazing to be speaking to you guys. What we will be covering today is different types of admission deadlines for universities in terms of how they accept applications, how they process applications, when they release admits, and things like that. We'll also talk about the stay back policy, which is the stay back period in every country after the completion of the degree, and how that is significant in terms of you making a decision for your applications and graduate admissions. And we'll also go over what all intricacies we need to follow for post admission processes, right? If you get an acceptance from a university, what all do you then need to do to solidify that acceptance and secure a seat? We'll also talk about the work experience that is required for each degree, right? Because typically there is a good deal of confusion amongst Indian students in terms of MBA programs and graduate programs in business management. Because, of course, that is a very coveted field. It is something that does lead to good employment outcomes, but there are a lot of layers to uncover in terms of understanding which programs you are eligible for and which programs you're not. Also, in terms of whether you should apply this year or whether you should wait for a year and then apply. If there are further questions about GMAT requirements or other testing requirements, degree availabilities, course lengths, and things like that, I'm very happy to clarify those. So please, any comments, we'd really appreciate that. That will help us. That will help take us forward. So, firstly, we will be discussing the different kinds of admission policies. So, Ribu, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So, universities for postgraduate students typically have three types of admissions policies and procedures, right? The first, of course, is rolling admissions. In these kind of processes, the universities don't have a. All right, Yashika, I'll talk about that. These applications don't have a deadline, which is to say that your application is processed when you submit your application, right? Therefore, the university does not have a set tenure till which they will accept applications and after which they will process applications and release admits. So, you can apply, I think, from October, and you can apply till March, April, and sometimes even May to universities which have rolling admissions. However, it does not mean that you can apply any time in the year. Universities that are prestigious, courses that are prestigious, their seats often get filled up quickly, right? Sooner rather than later. So you see even rolling admissions closing by January, February in some universities for specific courses. If you are planning to apply to any of the universities that are following rolling admissions, it is definitely a good idea to apply as early as possible and not hold on to your applications and not go ahead with it, because then you get to compete for more seats as the application cycle process goes ahead, and as we move closer and closer to the summer, seats start filling up, which makes the competition for the remaining seats even higher. So it is a good policy to apply as early as possible. Yashika, masters in psychology, a very very good question. So psychology is one of those subjects that lie in the intersection of liberal arts and medicine, right? Therefore, every country for its therapy and clinical practices has certain guidelines and certain certifications that you need to complete to practice that legitimately. For example, in India, you need to do an MPhil program after your master's to work as a clinical psychologist, right? So if you want to go for something like organizational psychology, the doors are quite open. You can, that is some course that you can definitely do. However, if you want to go for a research oriented course, I think UK is one of the countries that is better in terms of facilitating a good research education and also helping you develop a career in that. Having said that, whenever you go consider a psychology degree, always check which body is accrediting that degree. A degree is only beneficial if it has the particular accreditation of the oversight agency in the country, right? So that's a very important intricacy that you need to look into before applying to any of the programs across the world. Check out those requirements specifically. Next, please. Then, of course, we have the phase-wise admissions plan. Ribu, go to the next slide, please. Yeah. In the phase-wise admissions plan, which is again the most common form of admissions in the graduate programs, universities set phases, right? There are three or four or maybe five different application deadline dates, and all of them have a set decision date also. Which is to say that if you apply in November, you get your decision by January. If you apply in January deadline, you get a decision by March. So this is a very systematic way in which you can plan your applications, right? You can maybe apply to the top universities in the initial deadlines, see if you're getting in, and if you don't, you can lower your aspirations and apply to the mediocre ones in the later deadlines. On the other hand, if you can take the other route also, you can apply for the mediocre universities first, secure an admission, at least guarantee a seat, and then apply to the top university in the later deadlines. In this also, international students are expected to apply by the second or third deadline, which is typically till February and March, because after that, you till the decision comes, there is the visa process takes time. So even if the phase-wise admissions program is open till May, international students will be recommended to apply till March so that you can, get all the processing done, get your visa, and then go to college by September. And third, of course, is direct admissions. This is also something that's present, even though at a lower frequency. Universities have one and final deadline, and they evaluate all applications together after that deadline. And the decision is typically released in 2 to 3 months after your thing is over. Uh, Something you asked about, yeah, Meera asked about masters in performing arts at NYU Tisch. I think NYU Tisch again is one of the best places for you to do that degree, especially if you want to go in for drama, theater, sound production, theater production. Broadway is just across, like very very close to NYU. So apart from California and universities like Cal Arts and California College of the Arts, I would definitely think that masters in performing arts at NYU Tisch is a good option. What you need to keep in mind, Meera, for that degree is that you will need a portfolio. That is, you will need a collection of the pieces of collection of your artwork. Basically, if it's an acting, if you want to go for acting, you need to prepare a portfolio in which you have to act out certain plays. Like for at the undergraduate level, NYU will ask you to send in two contemporary pieces and two classical pieces of acting and theater. And I'm sure that for the master's programs also, they'll have similar rigorous requirements. So if you want to go in for NYU Tisch for a performing arts masters, start preparing early, start preparing as soon as possible, and develop a portfolio. That is the most important thing that will determine your acceptance into the university. Again, which country is good for psychology if you want a PR? Yashika, I think Australia is a good option, right? I just want to dive into this for a second. In Australia, there are two types of degrees: clinical masters and counseling masters. Clinical masters are more difficult to get into. You need to get your WES evaluation done, but also they lead to slightly better employment outcomes. For counseling masters, that is a fairly easy and simpler process. However, very few universities offer counseling masters programs, and they're also running out of seats. So if you want to go for a counseling masters, which is a simpler admission process, definitely go in for that, right? Major difference between MBA and MIM, that depends on your work experience. If you're somebody who has 2 years or lesser work experience, you can not apply to the MBA program. I will get to that towards the end of this presentation. Then you should go for an MIM. However, somebody who has 3 years or more of work experience, then the MBA program is something that you should definitely do. Data science, Supreet, again, a very, very good stream, very, very employable. I would say that it's one of the few streams that is employable across different contexts and countries, right? So if you do a data science degree in, I would say that Ireland, UK, Canada, and US are the best places to do that. Next slide, please. So most universities either use the phase-wise system of applications or a process of rolling admissions with a final deadline, which is a mixture of process one and process three, which means that they will keep rolling admissions like King's College London, right? It has rolling admissions, but has also set a deadline for 15th March, after which either 15th or 5th March, there's some deadline there in March that you need to apply to. You cannot apply later than that. So whilst your application will get processed, the sooner you apply, you should wait and like you cannot do it after 15th March. And each country has its own way of doing things. Policies tend to be fairly uniform, which is to say that UK universities across the board have a similar way of doing things. US universities have a similar way of doing things. So therefore, you have to evaluate each of the countries. However, exceptions do exist, and let's delve into some of these nuances going ahead. Next, please. Yuvesh, MBA in international business, I think it is a good course. I would need to understand more about your profile and your work experience to evaluate further. But yeah, I think an IB MBA is something that is one of those careers that is on the upward trend as compared to downward trends. Students who graduated students who graduated in electronics, I think something in terms of computing and technology development is something that I would really recommend. So of course this is a very rudimentary suggestion. I need to delve into more nuance. But Anirudh, what I would recommend is the computer science or a CS engineering masters from the US. That is one of the few things that I know of will guarantee you a good career and a good, in the both short term and the long term. All right, let's talk about UK universities. Universities in UK, as I said before, typically follow a rolling admission system, which is to say that their applications open around October every year, and the sooner you apply, the sooner you get admission. From my own experience, it is better to apply soon because you compete for more number of seats, and if you have a top university in mind like King's or Warwick or UCL, LSE, then applying sooner is a good idea. However, some courses, and again, this is some like with a disclaimer that not all courses, but some courses in Imperial, LBS, and LSE, which are typically the three most competitive colleges in the UK, they might have phase-wise admissions plans, right? Phase one, phase two, phase three, and phase four. So you need to take that into account. So yeah, if you're applying to the UK, you can apply now. That's the long story short. Applications are still open. However, they will close in the good universities. They will close in about a month, month and a half. So if you really want to have an aspirational university target, and honestly, if you develop a good statement of purpose, if you develop a good CV, it is fairly easy to crack the top 10 in the UK, right? If you just put in some effort and take some help doing that, cracking the top 10 in UK is not that difficult. The top five is of course a very different ballgame, but you can crack the top 10, and applications are still open. So if you want to start preparing now, start planning now, it is definitely a good idea. Next, please. Uh, as I said, an overwhelming number of UK universities are accepting applications, and they will do so for a month. However, the top ones will close applications in a month. Imperial will close it. London Business School will close it. King's, LSE, like basically any university that you expect to have a lot of applications because of how prestigious it is, they are more likely to close their applications sooner. So if you are wanting to apply to a top university, now is the time to start. One disclaimer here, and this can apply throughout the presentation, is that what we are focusing on is mostly master's programs, right? PhD programs across the world have an earlier deadline and they have a different application procedure altogether in terms of you finding a research mentor, reaching out to them, finding a common research idea, and then submitting an application, right? So for PhD programs, while some of the UK universities still have them open, most of the European universities, American universities, and Canadian universities have closed that in December and January. So if you're somebody who's interested in applying for a PhD, that takes a lot of hard work in terms of developing research proposals, researching for your prospective mentors. What you should target now is a good university for 23 entry. So start building up for that. Next, please. Anisha, is Turkey good for education? I think it is not yet there. It's not yet at the same level as a country which has developed, like Ireland, Netherlands, or France or something. However, there are some good universities. Jitin visited Turkey a couple of before the pandemic started, and he did give me very good feedback on a few, two, three good universities there. So I do think that in terms of international applicability or international recognition or international validity, it's not up there, but I do think it will be a popular destination in the coming years. BSBI good for masters and MBA. I think Anisha, you mean business analytics. I think yes, it is definitely, as I said before, a growing field that is giving students higher and higher number of jobs. So definitely go for it. And this is something that's popular across different national contexts. So follow other. You can prioritize other things in terms of choosing countries and apply. However, again, American universities, the deadlines for this is getting over in February. Nandini, you want to go for MIT for artificial intelligence? Start my okay. You're currently working at HCL. I think that's very good. Nandini, one thing you need to really work on is your GRE score. Yeah. To go to a top university like MIT, I think 330 is something that you should definitely get at least. Along with that, you should also maybe start doing some research projects, something along the lines of what you would want to explore intricately. I would really encourage it to be interdisciplinary. Don't just focus on the computing side, but also look at the social implications and the political implications of things like AI. So definitely you need to. I think deadlines for MIT would almost be over right now. If you haven't taken the GRE, the next admission cycle is for you. Interior architecture, Madhumita, I think Canada is really developing in that field because of the increasing number of immigration population. They're rapidly expanding their building structures. So Canada is really a good field. Beyond that, I think US has top architecture schools. Like Cornell has a specific architecture school that's fantastic. CMU is also really good. So you can like check those out. All right. Moving on to the US, right? So US universities and like most of the universities above a particular threshold in terms of ranking, prestige, and placements follow a phase-wise system of admissions. Of course, other ones will follow rolling admissions, but the good ones have a phase-wise admission process. Typically, they start around November and continue till April, right? Universities have 4 or sometimes 5 application deadlines and subsequent decision deadlines also. However, a very important caveat is that you should not wait till March. March is the latest that you can apply to the US if you're an international student, because typically your application will take about a couple of months to get processed, right? It will take maybe till, if you apply in March, you get your result by May, and again it takes a couple of months for all the visa intricacies to be done. So hence, most universities, if you check the deadlines, if you check the university website also, they'll put a very small star and attach these conditions about what your process, what the deadline is for international students. So if you don't have a US visa, act fast, act now, because March is the only month you have to apply. Of course, you do have February, but if you haven't started planning, start planning that as soon as possible. um, Preeti, of course, post graduation options after BA, that is what this presentation is about. If you would ask a more targeted questions, I'll be able to answer that. Bhuvesh, I think the best options for MIM are obviously in Europe. Like, go for ESSEC, go for EDHEC, INSEAD, HEC Paris, ESCP, IE Business School. These are really good courses for MIM because that's where these courses started, and they're again really pioneering this in a very positive way. Of course, LBS and Imperial are also good, but I think this is the best one. In the US, MIM is available not everywhere. Very few universities offer that. But if you want to go to the US for MIM, I would suggest Cornell University. That has a very good MPS and management program. But long story short, best country for MIM is Europe. For MBA, again, it's not a country that's particularly good, but the university. So you should look at the rankings, look at the prestige value. If you want to go to the US, there's the conventional Ivy League schools, which have very good business schools. But other than that, I think that Europe would be a good option. Kshitij, US programs are typically more on the expensive side. I think it is the most expensive country in the world for education. So it really depends on the quality of the university and the course that you're going for. Fees can vary anything between 20 lakhs and 1 CR for a year. So of course, it's more nuanced. It is depending on your course and the university that you're targeting. Next, please, Dribu. All right. So most top universities have closed their applications for graduate programs, right? Business schools have still kept their application open, but for typically engineering programs, data science programs, the applications have either closed or they are closing in the next 1 month. So it is important that if you're interested, then just go for it right away. Do not wait and do not waste your time at all. Definitely start working on it as soon as possible and get it done, right? If you want to apply to the top schools, because we literally just have 20-25 days to get it done. However, like business programs are open, and other universities, which are, of course, state level universities, some of the private universities, which are not at the IB level, all those are still open. Mentioned a few, I'm so sorry, that's not Indian University, that's Indiana University. That is also open. But these are some of the universities that are open, and you can definitely go for that till at least March. But again, US admissions, they are running out fastest. I think Canada, mostly the application cycles are over for most of the competitive and prestigious programs. But US admissions are running out fast. So if you are wanting to apply in the US, if you're passionate about it, then you need to act on it as soon as possible. All right. And because we have genuinely less than a month to prepare for that. So again, I would say get on it, start working as soon as possible. Uh, Next, please. Canadian universities. Now, Canada again has a phase-wise admissions process, right? The lower ranked universities will have a rolling admission system, but most of the U15 universities have a phase-wise process. And applications are close to some of the top universities like Toronto, British Columbia, McGill. For a for a overwhelming majority number of courses, applications are closed, right? However, there are some universities, and again, take this with a pinch of salt because this might not apply to all courses. But typically, these are the universities that have still kept their applications open, and the ones in bold are good universities, right? Calgary, York, specifically the business school, University of Victoria, Western University. These are really, really good universities. So if you would want to go for a course in this, I think it's definitely a good idea. But again, time is running out. I feel that I'm repeating myself too much. But I just want to emphasize that people who are applying this year and who haven't applied till now, you really need to start acting on your interest and get that done. Right? So definitely start working on that. Next, please. European universities. Now let's discuss in this in two levels, right? First, of course, for research and graduate programs, some universities have closed their applications. Um Graduate Institute Geneva, Sciences Po, their applications are closed for most of the courses. However, there's another group of universities, specifically business schools, that have their applications open till April actually, which is quite late. It's one of the most latest deadlines for Indian students, right? And these are some good schools that I mentioned that have their applications open for the next couple of months. However, and a big however here is that these schools require GMAT. In comparison to most of the UK business schools, European schools have a much more stronger and harder requirement for GMAT scores. So if you haven't taken a GMAT and you would want to go abroad to these countries, to these universities, which I would highly recommend because they're very, very sought after, very competitive, and very good in terms of outcomes. Do start preparing for your GMAT now because even if you take the GMAT by the end of March and start working on your application simultaneously, you'll be good to submit in April, and that's a something that can be done. For those of you who are doing liberal arts, who are in psychology, political science, international relations, you have to be more specific in terms of checking schools because for these applications, for these courses, universities tend to close their applications slightly sooner. So yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? Yovesh, colleges for MBA, IB in Canada. Good question. So one thing you need to understand about Canada is that Canada does not offer as many specialized masters as the UK or Europe or the US, right? Of course, UK is number one. They have the most number of specialized courses, but Canada has like a very, very few number of those. International business MBA, I think MBAs, of course, you have specializations across the board. But if you would want a master's course in international business, go to Western University Ivy Business School. That's fantastic. So I would recommend you go in for that. That's one of the very few ones which has an international business masters. Then, of course, there's Australia. Now, Australia is slightly different from other countries because the presentation said fall September intake, but Australian universities do not have a September intake. Like a overwhelming majority of them do not have a September intake. Of course, this varies from course to course. However, their admission intakes are in July or February. The good thing about Australian universities is that they don't really have deadlines, given that given that they have multiple terms and their courses start in both in July, in February, and sometimes also in September. You can apply to Australian universities almost throughout the year. Yeah, so they don't have deadlines per se. Yes, your age. You can apply to Western University after graduation. Do you have a 3 year degree or a 4 year degree? If you have a 3 year degree, you'll need a 1 year of work experience. If you have a 4 year degree, then you can directly apply. Uh, again but again, students, when you are applying to universities, I think somebody was asking about a psychology program, right? So for those programs which are rare, which are sought after, the seats run out fairly faster, right? So you should not wait for a longer period of time to apply. If you want to go in July, again, apply by February. If you want to go to February, apply by October, November. So always apply 3 to 4 months before your term starts so that the university has time to process your application thoroughly. uh, but and similarly, it is also you also have time for a visa. Hemant, you want a general MBA abroad, best country with or without GMAT? Australia. I think the best country is Australia because most of the other countries, the top universities or the good universities require MBA, GMAT for MBA. It's as simple as that. So if you want to go to a university that's worth the investment into an MBA program, because business schools abroad are fairly expensive, then you can go in for Australia. But that's the only option. John Wick, options after BSc biotechnology. Again, I would want to understand more about you and what you're looking for and what you would want to do. Dhruv, is Canada not at par with European universities for MBA? I think some of them are really, really good. Like Rotman is a fantastic business school. U Toronto, Sauder is a fantastic business school. Even York, which is not a very great university in general, has a good business school. So yeah, these are good programs. But I would say that if you want to go for like MBA, you can go for those. You can focus on other things in terms of what your long-term plans are, the tuition fees, scholarship availabilities, and things like that. How much work experience is required for MBA finance? I would say that at least 2 years. Like 2 years is the bare minimum. But again, for a good university, for a oh without I'll just get to that, Hemant. A good university, if you want a strong application and you want to go to a good business school, go at least 4 or 5 years, because class profiles of leading universities for MBA programs is basically 25 to 27 years of age. That's the average age of a student who enters a school like Harvard Business or Wharton or Sloan or Stern or any of these, right? So I would say that 4 5 years of work experience at least. If you don't have that, go for a master's. That there is no problem with that. Hemant, where can you do an MBA without work experience? The answer is India. Unfortunately, I haven't heard of any MBA program that is worth its salt and still, will take an application without work experience. So I would definitely think about India as the only option. But no, do not go in for MBA programs without work experience. Any university that will offer that will not be a good university. So as simple as that. Hello, sir. How are you doing? Also, top universities to apply in Australia: Australian National Universities, Melbourne, Sydney, Monash, Queensland. These are the top ones. Next,
So
please.
I just want to share here, Vijit. So in Australia, people, if you are looking at universities in the main cities versus universities at other places, so there's an impact on PR. Yeah. So somehow, if you are growing and thriving in smaller cities, of course, you can still study in these cities and then go to a smaller city. But that is one challenge. Like Tasmania University will always give you a good scholarship, though University of Melbourne might give you least. So that's also a play which you need to look at. So we send a lot of students to Australia also every year. I mean, we've been sending a lot of students to various places, but Australia also a good place, decent place. If you are looking at areas like business analytics, you get jobs. If you are looking at areas like computer science, you get very good jobs. If you're looking at teaching opportunities, so these are areas which you can look at. Uh, MBA and MIM, both are fine, but MBA typically would require 3 years of work experience. PR in Ireland, Netherlands. So Netherlands is a better country in terms of job opportunities. I would prefer Netherlands over Ireland. Study-wise, Ireland is also good.
Um,
Yashika, you
Yashika, yes, yes. Your query.
yeah.
So yes, it is true. It is much easier for you to find a job after the clinical program as compared to a counseling program, right? Um, but again, I don't think it is impossible. See, try to understand, Yashika. Try to understand it comprehensively. Australia is a country with a good Indian diaspora, right? Good number of Indians live there. And when you think about people who would want to, who Indians would want to go for therapy, you'd always want, like, somebody would naturally think of somebody who is coming from a similar background and context. So I have personally done some research into the exact thing that you're talking about, and it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you're saying. There are opportunities that are available, and you won't be at risk of being sent back, as long as of course, you need to excel in your course, you need to do well, you need to perform in the top 20 30%. But if you're doing that well, I don't think that it will be a challenge. Can you pursue a master's in Europe in psychology without work experience? Bhavya, yes. The answer to that is simply yes. Most schools don't require work ex for a simple master's degree. Will working in the family for 1 year count as work ex? Hemant, unfortunately, no. Again, Hemant, I think that what you're looking for is a master's in management or a master's in finance or a similar program, and MBA is not a thing they should do. Online degrees from top foreign universities. We do have a webinar on that coming up, actually. You should stay tuned. We have a webinar on that in this month. I think in a couple of weeks, we will be addressing that in detail. But if there is an option, don't go for it. Always go for offline degrees, because degrees that are inherently online, they don't have a similar or equal market value. Next, please. All right, let's talk about the stay back policy. What does it mean? And this is a unique, this is a very complex topic where there's a lot of confusion in terms of students. So, a stay back policy refers to the number of months or years a student can stay in a host country after finishing their college and without securing any of these three things, right? a full-time job that sponsors a work visa, admission into another program that extends your academic visa, or a permanent residency. So to stay in a country, you need to do these three things, or you can stay back after your degree through the stay back policy, whatever the country has. Through the stay back period, students typically find jobs, engage in internships, develop networks, and utilize the opportunities provided by the university. So, you can do that to get a full time job, to secure long term placement there, or in a country like Canada or Australia, where PR is a very realistic and very short term goal that you can achieve. You can work towards that. So, yeah. How to make a career in consulting, is MBA necessary? I would say it's not necessary, but if you want to go for management consulting, you should do that. Yeah, because companies like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, they have a very strong filter. Unless you come from a very very top school, they don't take you in. So if you want to become a top tier consultant, Aditi, do an MBA program from a top university. However, if you want to go into impact consulting, I understand that companies do hire undergraduate students also, so you can do that. Bhavya, I need more context. Which masters, which country? You can, like, we can speak about this in detail in the counseling session. Uh, but again, let's go back to the stay back policy, right? So stay back policy is very important because the tenure of the stay back policy might determine how effective that degree is. If the degree is from a top university, but the country does not have any stay back policy, like Sweden, right? Sweden has a very short stay back policy. Then it is very difficult. Then the degree might not be worth as much. If the stay back policy is long, like if you do an engineering degree from the US, even from a state university, the stay back policy is 3 years. So those 3 years can be very very important for you to develop your career further, right? So I would think that stay backs are important. Next, please. Stayback policies are imperative to actualize long-term residency and employment plans, as I said before. If you want to have a global career or work abroad extensively, it is important to secure a job by doing internships and networking through the duration of your stayback period. For example, if you go to UK for finance, you graduate out of a fairly decent school like Warwick, and you have 2 years, right? I would think that you can spend those 2 years doing internships, understanding, understanding the understanding the situation there in terms of the job markets, finding networks, interviewing for job opportunities, and within those 2 years, you can land a job, and that job can sponsor your professional work visa there, and that's how you can live there. So even though UK is difficult to get jobs technically in terms of the rest of the world, if you compare it to that, it is good because it gives you a good stay back period, which allows you to find a job properly. Right, and this is again a recent development. UK previously had a 1 year stay back period. Now it has a 2 year stay back period. So that. Next, please. To stay back or not, stay back periods are completely optional. They're not mandatory. If you want to come back to India for any reason, you can do that. It's not that if you go to the UK, you have to stay there for 2 years after finishing your degree. You can do that. You can choose not to do that also. But the stay back period gives you the flexibility required in terms of making this choice and making that decision. Whether you want to stay, whether you want to go back. Basically, you're not under pressure to get this done, right? You're not under pressure to either stay in the country or go to the next country. So again, very very important in terms of evaluating your decisions. Ribhu, the next slide, please. All right, let's evaluate the country-wise stay-back policy. UK, 2 years, as I said before. US is different. If you want to do a STEM course, then it's 3 years. If you want to do a non-STEM course, it's 1 year. Epic Vapor, just get a job, like that will help you extend the stay-back period. So the difference in US is that if you do a STEM designated course, now STEM designated courses are not science courses. That is a very big misconception that only science and engineering courses are STEM designated. Some business courses are also STEM designated. For example, UIUC offers a master's in management that is STEM designated, even though it's a business course, right? So you have to do your research more intricately and take it forward. Data science, eco, and stats. I think these are all interrelated fields. So these are all difference in MIM and MBA. As I said, Hemant, it's different in terms of which demographic targets it. MIM is for young people. It's for people who have just graduated college or have only 1 year of work experience. They go for MIM. Those who have a longer degree of a longer experience, they go for an MBA, which obviously makes MBA a more professional program for mature applicants, for people who already have an understanding of business. So it's mostly about who you are and what your age is in terms of differentiating between an MIM and an MBA, not so much about whether this degree or that degree is different. Of course, an MBA is more prestigious, but an MIM is equally good if you are younger. Next, please. All right. New Zealand, 3 years. Ireland 2 years, Denmark 1 year, Netherlands again 1 year to 18 months. So this is the kind of stayback period for each country. These are the popular destinations to study abroad, right? And you can use this time to look for employments, and then you can, once you get employment, you can stay there through your work visa, or you can also get a PR through this time. So once you can do that. Hemant, best country for MIM. If you have GMAT, then Europe. If you don't have GMAT, then UK. Simple as that. Next, please. Anirudh, yes, Germany is a very good option for MTech in CS and electronics, and also automobile engineering in those fields. Quite good. Norway and Sweden up to 1 year. As I said, they don't have a very long stayback policy. So Australia is again intricate, right? So 2 years is the minimum plan, but in some regions which are not, as Sir was saying, which are not extremely populated in places like in places like rural Australia, it can also be up to 4 years. Canada, after 1 year of masters, 1 year of stayback. After 2 years of masters, 3 years of stayback. Singapore up to 1 year. However, you need to apply for that in within 90 days. ESSEC, Masters in Strategy and International Business, it's quite good, Aditi. I would think that if you have a GMAT score and if you have a 1 year of work experience in doing something, then you can easily crack that. Even if you do not have the work experience, if you're at the undergraduate level, I think a good GMAT score will help you crack it. Given that ESSEC is definitely one of the most competitive schools in the world in for business management. Next, please. Yeah. So let's talk about program-wise requirements for admissions, right? In terms of what programs require work experience, because this has been a regular feature. So MBA programs, at least 2 years of work experience, but often universities will ask for minimum 3 to 4 years of work experience. Master's programs, work experience is not typically required. In fact, some master's programs like the MSc in management in the UK do not allow students do not allow students with more than 2 years of experience to apply. Anushka, yes, Sciences Po is fantastic for IR. I would say that if you have that option, just learn French and go. It's really, really good option. It's one of the top five in the world for IR, I would say. So it's equivalent to going to an Ivy League university in the US. However, 1 year of work experience adds value to your profile, increases your chance of acceptance. Note that some research courses, right, some PhD courses, MPhil courses, or even research master's courses might require specific research experience. Or some data science courses also, they might require you to work in that field for some time. Typically, it's not required, but it is recommended. Is it worthy to pursue law from abroad after BA? Yes, I think that's definitely a good idea. UK is a good country that you can look at for that. If you want to do a JD degree, it will be a very complicated route, but I think you can go and do that in the US or Canada. But I think UK is the better idea. Madhumita, I think look at Canada. You will find graduate diploma programs there. It won't be a degree, but if you want to look at affordable option, definitely go for a diploma, a postgraduate diploma in Canada in interior designing. There are various ones in Ontario that offer that, so you can go in for that. Is it easy to get a PR in Europe as compared to a student in Melbourne? No, I would say that if you take Europe as an average, I think Melbourne is a better option. Of course, it's tough because Melbourne is like the second, third most populated city in Australia, right? So Melbourne isn't the easiest place to get a PR in Australia, but I think it's still comparatively faster than Europe. Except GMAT, of course, Hemant, you would need good academic scores, you would need a good profile and everything. You don't need GMAT in the UK for MIM, but yes, I think if a GMAT score is good, it is pushing your profile and your chances of acceptance and admission to a strong level. So you can definitely do that. We'll be summing this up in the next 5 minutes, guys. It was again really good questions, really nice speaking to you. So if you have any questions, just post it in the next 2-3 minutes, and as we end around 5:45. Best place for masters in finance, Ayushi. London. I'm saying London specifically, or Germany. There's a good school in Germany for that. Europe has a few good schools, and again, yeah, I would say that London, Europe, and Germany. London and Europe. Those are the two good places for finance. Internships and community work matter a lot. Yes, Anushka, they do matter a lot. They're important parts of your profile. So definitely, you can work on that. Can we go to the next slide, please? We have some of our leading admits from this year for graduate courses. As I said before, that admission cycles typically take time. We have about 40-50 students who are working with us for the graduate applications, and admits are slowly coming in. They started coming in over the last month only. So these are top admits that we have secured. Of course, we have secured more, but these are the most prestigious ones. So if you'd like to take over. Yeah. So, are you taking over? Yeah. Delft University of Technology, University of Eindhoven. So you can just explain why these are significant and why students should target for
So, one is that I can see two kinds of things. One is a lot of people asking us which country would be better. It requires a detailed research. Of course, some areas where a couple of our students have been going, so we'll immediately tell you. Others require detailed research, so it will be better if you come to us for complete career counseling where we understand you and then pitch. Right now, maybe from your mind, you're saying interior decoration, but later on, if we show you that fashion management is also a good option, which is creative plus managerial, you might just shift there, you know. So it's a good idea to come over. You can connect with us on these numbers. Just WhatsApp us. Our team will get in touch with you, and then they'll fix up a complete counseling session. And then, in case you need, we help with profile building. We help with study abroad applications. We do all countries. I mean, we are including India. We help you with across the countries. So so that is what. Which country is good for PG after MBBS? Depends. If you want to go to US, so USMLE. If you want to go to UK, then PLAB. So these are the exams which you have to give. And but again, if you need details, probably fix up a session so that you can come here and we can interact. University of Alberta is quite decent. So Alberta would require a certain percentage. I don't know how much you have got. It's a good idea to give GMAT also, so that I'll have to check whether Alberta itself requires GMAT or not. But it will be a good idea so that your choices are much more wider. If you don't get a job abroad, typically if you are from a good university, Priyansh, you will get a job abroad. Also, there's a strong system of internship, working on campus, working outside campus, so you will get it. If you do not go to a decent university, then this might happen. Also, you have to select your country. That is why like people like us exist. We help you do that effectively. Which country is more affordable for law, UK, US, or Canada? I would prefer UK. The opportunities are very good. Our legal system also has taken up, like, was follows kind of UK system. Also, in UK, there will be institutions which are recognized by Bar Council of India. So, just in case you want to come back and you want to practice here, you want to do things here, that recognition is also there. Somehow, we are very close to UK. Ayushi, please understand the master's courses which started in the world, MIMs and masters, they started off from Europe. So a lot of European universities started masters, and then UK it has been there. So US and Canada masters might not be valued as such. Canada still to some extent it is, but US not so much. So that is why if you're looking at masters, I would prefer Europe. Few universities in US do have masters, which we can look at. No work experience will not get you anywhere for MBA. Only master's program you can get in, bro. So you need you need some work experience, typically 2 to 3 years, generally speaking 3 years before you go for MBA. Masters you can go in for. Yes, you can, Gargi. Why not? You can take a drop year or maybe work in a position where you are working for like 4 days, 5 days in a week, and rest of the time you are preparing for your GMAT and then going for a good masters. Yes, it can be done. Yes, we do help in building profile for MBA in India also. Like there are so many things which are happening. For example, I'll just show you a website and you'll be very happy with it. So I'm just sharing my screen. Like this is a company which kind of these are internships you can take free of charge. Not only like you can, these are skill based programs, I would say. Yeah. So it's a virtual experience because a lot of people don't understand. India, the main problem is, for example, investment banking. Now, how many of you actually understand investment banking or climate and sustainability? Yeah. Of course, some areas are sales and trading, virtual intern experience. So Citibank, yeah. Imagine that this is free of charge. Yeah. So when you are working with us, we give you such kind of opportunities. Yeah. You just register and start. It is free for all the students. Can you see this? Yeah. Normally in India, if you have to go and work with city, you'll have to spend time, energy. You have to work out a jugaad. Then also it may happen, it may not. But strategy consulting you want to do, Boston Consulting, a top multinational, you can do this free of charge. Yeah. So we are the people who help you do this thing. We kind of help you do this thing, profile building with the lot of understanding of the ecosystem, with the latest things being available to you, whether you're looking at India or abroad. It's absolutely fine. So Hemant, yes, you can connect with us. Review, if you can showcase our phone numbers, you can just, Hemant, you can WhatsApp us right now, and I'll, yeah, on any of these numbers, and we'll connect you to the right person. Consulting is a very, very good career. If you look at consulting revenues, it has grown phenomenally in the last 2 years. Priyansh, it depends on which country. You just written 20 lakhs, so you'll have to write the complete thing. Hemant, look, it can be done in 6 months if you are dedicated onto it. Otherwise, at least in a year. Though we have students who are there with us for 2 years, 2.5 years also. But at least in a year is a good time. Internship does not count as WorkX. It is counted as internship only. Ayushi, yes, CFA is a good course. Qualifications for getting admission in Kings. So Kings, if you have a GPA of around like 8.2, 8.5, and fee for the course will be, I'll have to check, but maybe between 35 to 40 lakhs. Yeah. So King's College, Manchester, Warwick. So these are good top options which you can look for. Okay. Okay, so with this, I think we have been around for some time now. Any help you need, you can be in touch with our team. My name is Jitin Chawla. I was helped by Vijit, who's in study abroad to conduct this program. Yes, do text and be in touch. Chaitanya, if you're going to be a player, like again, London, Canada, England is a good place. Somehow, lot of interest in cricket. So you can look for some courses which are a combination of, say, sports management and playing cricket. Yeah. Or if you're very confident about it, then you can just go for it. That depends on the level you are at right now. I've sent a guy for football to France. There's a Mets club. They take children at ninth, 10th level, and people go, and then people build it up. So that is what I'm speaking about. So you can connect with us guys for help in career counseling, for study abroad, step by step how to move forward, for profile building, complete application end to end. Till the time you land there, we are there with you. Like visa services, student loan, everything we can organize. So that is how we are placed. Okay, and also we do it with utmost honesty and dedication. So that is what our reputation is. And every year, total of 300 plus students go to various countries. So I would like to wish you all the best. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Let's stay in touch. Thank you. Bye bye.